Hi, I'm Joy. Welcome to my week 3 assignment post. What I learned about myself after completing this module was that I came to the realization that I answered my calling based on my life experiences. When I decided to change from a career in real estate to the classroom, I knew I wanted to teach social science. I wanted to teach social science because my history and my social science classes were always the most interesting to me, and I always did the best I could in those. And then also when I think about a couple of my childhood experiences, especially the ones where I was treated the most unfairly, they were the ones that I wanted to use as teaching opportunities. So as an ethnic studies educator, I actually teach freshmen and sophomores about racial bias and what it looks like. And so one of our 10 principles of ethnic studies is about helping our students develop their critical consciousness. And after more careful examination of the principles, they appear to put a finer point on our 5 core competencies of SEL. So not only am I building those competencies within myself, I'm also helping my students as well, and I'm using my ethnic studies content as the vehicle. The information in this module, it only furthered what I've already implemented in my practice from day one. I'm a product of this town, and now I teach in the same district that provided me with my K-12 education. So I don't really need to look any further than my own student experience to be culturally relevant. Though things change in 25 years, many of the students that I serve are legacy kids, and their families and I have a shared history, and I'm able to make connections with my students based on shared experiences with their families. Recognizing the intersectionality of identity is something I teach as core content of my class. And I'm very intentional about teaching this unit when it's time. To know oneself is the key to unlocking the heart and the mind so that they are more opening to learning about actual history as it took place. Teaching ethnic studies allows me to tackle issues of racial discrimination, of implicit bias, in a very direct way. It's included as part of my curriculum, and it's not just some off-topic discussion that just happens as a tangent from, the things that we typically talk about. We also discuss power, privilege, oppression, and how to fight against it, and how we as a community can come together to heal despite our trauma. My entire class, from the classroom itself to the culture to the content, everything is meant to directly address the issues that stem from bias and ignorance and hatred to get our community to heal and to move forward. One of the critical incidents on my timeline, it's a pretty heavy topic for me to discuss. I appreciate the opportunity to be vulnerable about it. I had a mentor when I was in middle school. I belonged to a summer theater program for youth. It was a very selective process to be chosen for it. You had to audition, you had to meet academic performance requirements, and so I was selected for this program fair and square. I knew I was different from the rest of my peers. A lot of people that were a part of the program were very affluent, very white. I was neither one of those things. And so while I felt different, the good news was that my friends never made me feel different about who I was. Well, my friends never made me feel different or, never singled me out for being different. There's one adult mentor, and we'll just call her Sue. I never could seem to please her quite enough. I could never get on her good side. There was never any real positive feedback coming from her, which I thought was odd, but, I didn't really think too much of it in my 13-year-old brain. I just, continued to mind my own business and do what I did, and that was act, dance, and play music. One day we all arrived at the theater to get started on our work day when we discovered that somebody had vandalized the bathroom. There was graffiti all over it. It was done with a magic marker, and we still to this day never quite identified who was responsible for it. Later on in that day, one of the other adult mentors pulled me aside and said, I'm sorry, Joy, I tried to fight for you because I know you did not do it, but Sue seems to think that you are the one that's responsible for the graffiti in the bathroom and is not welcoming you back to the program for next year. I was shocked. I was horrified. I there wasn't any part of me that was even capable of doing anything like this. And the only reason why she had me pegged at all as the person responsible is because to her, I must have fit the description of somebody who was a tagger in the town. All she had was that I was a person of color that must have been from the ghetto and had no business being in her program. And that's all she had to go on, and that's what she used against me. Up until that point, I had such a strong passion for anything acting and dance and theater, and it went away after that. I mean, her bias, her what I can only imagine is her racism just ruined that for me. It's almost as though this life experience made me uniquely qualified to teach ethnic studies to freshmen and sophomores. After doing the work for the module, I realized that, people operate within their framework of their own experiences. I'm no different from that. And, for me, the reason why I'm successful in my classroom is because I take my students' lived experiences and, the framework by which this world has, set up for them. And I use that to build relationships with my students. And I use that to build common ground between us. Thank you so much for watching my video. As you can see, working against racial bias is not only a central part of my content, it is also a personal mission for educators like myself. Thank you once again for the opportunity to speak.